Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kinda Creepy's Spooky Scary Time. I'm Jason Emmett.
I'm Casey Masterpiece.
And I'm Twisted Kid Matt.
For those of you who don't know, we do two shows. We used to do them as one. We're kind of separating them now. First show is a clip show where we look at some paranormal clips and we discuss it. You can go back and watch that if you have not already done so. And then the second one is where we tell a true paranormal type story. They're reported as true.
Who's to say?
Someone is to say. And these are just for a little bit more fun. I usually kind of write these up and then we kind of talk about them and we just sort of get the guy's reaction. So this week we've got one in particular. Well, we've got two short stories that kind of interact with each other. I have a little bit of a confession to make to you guys. Dolls creep me out a little bit. My daughter more so than me, but dolls creep me out a little bit. When I was a teenager, I actually spent the night at a friend's house whose mom actually collected antique dolls. And I was given the spare bedroom to sleep in, which turned out to be the doll room. It was not what I would call an easy night's sleep for me. There were hundreds of lifeless doll eyes peering at me in the darkness. And when I say hundreds, I mean this room was surrounded in antique dolls. Ooh. I finally felt, and it was one of those big like metal bed frames that whenever you moved, it was like
the whole thing shakes.
I did not sleep that well that night.
No kidding.
But Hollywood has actually used the childlike analogy the childlike analog of dolls for years in horror films like Demonic Toys and Child's Play, Dolly Dearest, and The Boy. The Boy is kind of important to today's story, actually.
Okay.
So what is it about these little toys that give us the heebie-jeebies so bad? Is it the fact that they look human but are void of life? Annabelle was a smash at the box office, right? Scared people everywhere. But did you guys, and I know you did, but did you guys know it was based off true events? And did you know that it isn't the only true story inspired, movie inspired by killer dolls? Obviously, you guys probably did know that Annabelle was based off a true story, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to actually begin this story with another really famous one, and that is the story of Robert the doll, Robert and Jean. Now, I'm sure you guys know a little bit about Robert the doll.
Yeah.
So the story of Robert and Jean begins in 1906. Robert Eugene Otto lives with his family in a small mansion in Key West, Florida. I should have grabbed pictures of the mansion. I'll put one up. It's a really cool looking place. It's still there. But they live in a small mansion in Key West, Florida. So the Ottos are a very prominent family, well-to-do members of society. And yes, they had a staff working for them, including a nanny for Robert, who the family called Jean. They called Robert Jean because his name is Robert Eugene. They referred to him as Jean. So according to urban legend, Jean was given the doll from one of the caretakers, the nanny who looked over him, who, according to legend, was a practitioner of voodoo who later cursed the doll after being reprimanded by Mr. Otto. Now, whether the voodoo nanny, whether the right, it happens. You just put a voodoo curse. Whether the voodoo nanny part of this story and the curse are
so passive aggressive too.
Like,
you know what? I'm not going to quit, but I'm going to curse your entire family.
Yeah.
I'm going to curse the doll.
Maybe it was me. Maybe you just think it was me. Who knows?
It's quite putting in the early 1900s.
We don't know if that part of the story is or not. No one really knows. That's probably just a myth that was tacked on much later. But what we do know is that the doll is real, was very much real, and it was in fact a gift from the boy's grandfather, who purchased it on a trip to Germany. The doll itself was created by the Steiff Company, the same company that produced the first official teddy bear. And the doll was never meant to be a toy. This doll was actually a display model. They would use these as almost like a mannequin. Think of it more of as a mannequin.
Yeah. To house the soul of a demon, full disclosure, not a big fan of having this guy on screen for an extended amount of time, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get to that later on.
Well, just look at it. I mean, look at the.
No, that's what you're not supposed to.
It's got that mischievous little smile and those little black pin drop eyes,
like a doll's eyes.
But it also confirms that it was never meant to be a toy, and it's much more mannequin. It does kind of confirm that. No matter the doll's origin or its original intent, it was bought, and Gene loved it. Gene just loved this doll to pieces.
For some reason. Yeah.
He named it, and he named it Robert after himself. He took his first name. He says, "This is Robert the doll." And
Very
the two became
narcissistic of him.
inseparable. The two became inseparable. He dressed Robert in a small sailor suit, one of his own small sailor suits, from what I gather, and took him everywhere with him. Gene even began to talk to Robert as if he was a real person, and that's where things started getting kind of creepy. Is what I'm saying.
That's the name of the show.
Yeah.
Also, I want to be very clear. His relationship with Robert went on into his adulthood. This is important too.
Mm-hmm.
So Gene's parents start noticing that when they heard their son talking to the doll, a different voice would sometimes respond. And at first they chalked it up to active imagination and Gene kind of changing his voice, pretending he was Robert. But then Gene began to blame things on Robert, claiming that he was not responsible, but Robert did it. So the Otto family claimed that they could hear childlike footsteps running through the house at night and the sounds of a child's laughter. And then came the nightmares. Gene began waking up in the middle of the night screaming, and his parents would rush into his room to find furniture moved around, things like that. But Gene refused to get rid of Robert. He said the two had formed an almost brotherly bond. He just wouldn't get rid of Robert. And I said it continued on into adulthood. The relationship continued as he grew up. Gene eventually got married, and Robert was given his own room in the attic, complete with furniture and toys. Robert spent his entire time sitting in a chair, glaring out of the window. They had a turret room. Again, I put a picture up, hopefully earlier, and you'll see that turret room that was made into Robert's room. He was given his own room, and he sat in a chair and would just stare at it. And people who would walk by said they saw him move. They would see him moving throughout the room. They saw him looking back down at him. It was just creepy to everyone who lived anywhere near. Gene would often spend hours in Robert's room, telling his wife, Anna, it was the best room for his painting because he became a painter, as the lighting there was better. But Anne grew to despise the doll. And she absolutely hated Gene's relationship with this doll, right? And when Gene died in 1972, she placed Robert in a cedar chest where she
heard it thumping and clawing on the lid.
I don't think that's
the whole time.
But she's like, that's where he's going to remain. He's going to stay in that chest forever.
That checks out.
So years after Anne passes away, another family moves into the house, and Robert is discovered by their 10-year-old daughter. Now, she claimed Robert would torment her and frighten her, and said he even tried to kill her. This is what the 10-year-old child says. So in 1994, Robert the doll leaves the mansion after being donated to the Key West Art and Historical Society, where he was put on display in the East Martello Museum. To this day, visitors to the museum claim his facial expressions change, and workers claim they see him move. It is also claimed that anyone who takes his picture without permission will be cursed. And over the years, Robert has been blamed for various misfortunes, from broken bones to divorce and car wrecks, things like that. I just want to be very clear, Robert. I didn't take any of these pictures,
and that's why I don't like having it on screen. As I don't want to risk it, to be honest.
Yeah,
and if you've noticed, I'm trying not to look at the screen the entire time. I've heard about this doll for so long, and just the story behind it, real or not, I don't want to tempt it, because I've heard of the the misfortunes of so many people. As like, let's go mess with this doll. Let's insult it. We mean no disrespect, Robert. I just want to put that out there.
I did another show years ago.
Like that. Get your permission, Robert.
And I did a whole thing on Robert, and I'm fine. So I mean, my life sucks.
We're cool. I hope, Robert.
It was before this. The reason I bring up the movie The Boy is because it was loosely based around Robert.
We'll go ahead and take him off screen now. Yeah.
And I will tell you, the first The Boy, the first one, is really good. There was a sequel.
And that actually kind of ties back into what I had said during the real life horrors episode that we did, of somebody living in the walls.
Yeah, that's true. But, that's a spoiler, I guess, if you haven't seen the movie.
A little bit of a spoiler.
But the first movie, the Boy, is actually really good. I didn't care for the sequel at all. It really doesn't. It's not very good. But the first one's actually, it's they go a different route. Let's just say So I want to tell one more story. Since I brought up Annabelle, I thought it would be cool to tell you guys, for those who don't know. I mean, a lot of people know about Annabelle because you've probably seen the movies or seen The Conjuring or whatever, but there's a real story behind Annabelle, and it's not that doll. But I kind of thought it'd be fun to tell you guys that, just in case you don't know it. So the true story of Annabelle differs considerably.
These dolls look like they're whispering in each other's ears.
Right, like plotting a murder or something.
Somebody.
Yeah. The true story of Annabelle differs a lot from the movies. It actually starts in 1970 after a nursing student was given a large Raggedy Ann doll purchased from a secondhand store for her birthday from her mother. So the real Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll. It's not that evil little concoction thing you see in the movie.
Yeah.
So
like
at
a
the
weird,
time,
creepy clown.
at the time, yeah, it's really bizarre looking with way too much eye makeup. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I see of a doll. So at the time,
about to spend a night out on the town.
Donna,
Right.
who was the nurse's name, she lived in an apartment with her roommate Angie. She actually really loved the gift of this child-sized doll, and she found a place on her bed as soon as she got home. That's not that shocking. Raggedy Ann and Andy, especially in 1970, were highly collectible. People loved these characters, so it's not that shocking. Now, at first, neither Donna or Angie thought much about the doll, aside from it being quite antique. But as the days started passing, things began to happen around their apartment. Donna and Angie noticed that Annabelle, as she would become named, seemed to move on her own. It was subtle at first, small movements that could be passed off as the doll being bumped or maybe even simply gravity working against her. But within weeks, the movement started to increase. They would leave the house with the doll sitting on Donna's bed, and then they would get back and they would find her sitting on the couch in the living room. So using logic, which they did, and seeing things the way I believe most of us would in this situation, at first, what do you guys think they thought?
The doll's clearly possessed.
Yeah.
No, they're thinking somebody's coming into our damn apartment, right?
Messing around with the doll.
That was their first thought. Somebody's messing with us or somebody's breaking in. So there was no evidence, obviously, to back this up. They didn't have any proof other than a doll moving that somebody was coming in, but that's what you would think. But they started checking the doors and windows when they got back. Everything seemed to be fine. Everything is intact. We can't figure out, but that's what we think is happening. So it was actually a close friend of theirs named Lou who first brought up the idea that maybe something wasn't right with the doll itself. It's not necessarily somebody coming in. What if the doll, guys? What if there's something wrong with the doll? So he actually told him he didn't like it. He's like, I don't like the doll, and it feels wrong to me. It feels wrong. It feels somehow evil. I get a vibe off of it. But the two of them pass this off, saying, there has to be a logical explanation, and it was after Lou pointed that out and after they kind of blew him off that's when the messages started. So basically, Donna starts finding these pieces of parchment-like paper, these weird parchment paper that they don't even know where it came from, with messages written on it like "Help Lou" or "Help us," like scrawled across this paper. They would come in and it would be sitting there. And then one night, Donna comes home to what she called a shocking scene. Annabelle was in her bed where she left her, but her hands were covered in something crimson red, something that looked like blood that almost appeared to be coming from the doll itself.
Ooh.
So this is just too much for her, right? So a little prompting from Angie, Donna contacts a medium, and they have the medium come in. And after sitting with the doll for a while, the medium told the girls that before the apartment building had been built, the body of a 7-year-old girl had been found in the field where it now sat. She told them that the little girl's name was Annabelle Higgins, and that the spirit of the little girl was drawn to the doll. Not necessarily the doll was Annabelle, but that the little girl was drawn to the doll, and it felt safe with Donna and Angie and wanted to stay with them. So believing Annabelle to be the spirit of this sweet child, Donna and Angie agreed to let the spirit stay. As it turned out, that seemed to be their biggest mistake. That was, you shouldn't have done that. That was bad. It was shortly after the session with the medium that Lou began complaining of nightmares where the doll would slowly crawl up his paralyzed body and begin choking him. Lou said he woke up out of breath, and in a cold sweat. The dreams were so vivid that he began to grow concerned for his first two friends that were like living in the apartment with the doll. So a few days after he and Angie were at the apartment getting ready to go on a road trip, when they heard what they said was the unmistakable sound of someone moving around inside of Donna's room. Have you guys ever had the feeling someone was in your house? Like you just walked in and you're like, I feel like somebody's in here. Do you guys kind of remember how cautiously you moved through your house, just having that feeling that somebody might be in there? You're like peering around corners, like moving real slow, trying not to make noise.
Pulling out your taser. You know.
That had to be how I want to get that in your point. Did you scary a taser? Why does your taser go? He's like, I got a really good one.
I can't make taser sounds. No, the squatter video that we posted.
I get. I know.
Yeah.
I get. Just pull it out. All I can think though is feeling like somebody's in that room as Lou approaches it. That's how he has to feel. Like there's somebody in there. He's moving slow. He's
ready to fight somebody if he has to.
Right.
He's little Raggedy Ann doll runs across the room with a butcher knife in its hand.
So he stands outside the door, right, for a few minutes, and he's listening. He's listening for anything, and then he just tosses it open, ready. I'm ready. Everything in the room is in place except for Annabelle. I'm sorry, except for the doll, Annabelle. Annabelle is sitting in the corner of the room, and she's staring at him. Now, I can't imagine how much courage it must have taken for Lou to walk over to where Annabelle sat, but he did
with clenched butt cheeks.
Right. As he gets close to her, he feels this pain across his chest. And he pulls up his shirt and he sees these claw-like marks appearing on his skin. This is weird because we did a thing about the Sally house, and the same thing. Why is it with little girl ghosts, man? There seems to be these claw-like. It's weird. Just
vengeful children.
I had a niece like that. So for him,
she's gotten the help she needs. Yeah.
For all of them, this is the last straw. Donna called a priest. And after a short investigation, the priest contacted infamous Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy with Ed and Lorraine Warren, but they were a big fixture of the 70s with paranormal stuff. Now, like I said, I imagine most of you know who the Warrens were, but for those who don't, they're an infamous paranormal team who have actually reportedly been involved in some form or another with thousands of reported ghost and paranormal phenomenon related cases over the years, including very limited, not as much as people think, but things like the Amityville Horror, The Conjuring. The movies give them a little more to do with it than they really did, but they were.
It took real life people and turned them into fictionalized versions of themselves.
Yeah. Right. Which I actually think we should do an episode all on the Amityville at some point where we discuss the controversy.
We could do one entirely on the Warrens.
Yeah, that could be a lot, but I would be willing. Yeah. Now, according to the Warrens, the entity in the apartment wasn't a ghost at all, but it's a demon that was possessing the location and using the doll as a way to trick these two girls. So the priest actually performs an exorcism on the apartment, and Donna agreed to give the Warrens possession of the doll after they convinced her that the demonic presence was clinging itself to the doll. As the story goes, and you will see, they placed it in a bag and set out towards home, but Ed was concerned that they might be attacked, so he stayed off the highway. According to them, the engine kept shutting off, the brakes nearly failed, and the power steering began to act up just on the ride home. Ed sprinkled holy water on the doll, and things began to settle down, but once they arrived home, Ed claimed the doll began levitating and showing up in different rooms throughout the Warrens' home. The Warrens called upon Catholic priests this time to exorcise the doll, not the apartment. The priests kind of laughed it off. But on his way home, the priest who laughed it off, his brakes did in fact fail. He wrecked his car, totaling his car, but luckily he survived. Now, all this is kind of in the movie, but way exaggerated, so they blow it way out of proportion. After that, the Annabelle doll was placed in a locked case in the Warrens' private paranormal collection, where it remained. I don't know what's going on with their private collection now. We should look into that because they've both passed away.
It's It
think
actually
it's
has caretakers.
Is it their
like
daughter or
the Warrens' son-in-law, something
their
like that.
nephew
like
or
that,
something
yeah.
like that? Their nephew started into paranormal stuff too,
Yep.
so I don't know. Now I can't say for certain what it is about dolls and old forgotten toys that managed to invade our psyche, but it is clear there's something there. Maybe it's the thought of something so innocent being tainted, or perhaps it's the idea of something that looks human being so void of life. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whether we believe in ghosts and demons or not, that's up to you as an individual. I'm not here to sway your opinion. I'm not either way. But no matter what you believe, there is no denying that these tales of creepy dolls and cursed objects make for a really good story. Hollywood agrees. So they've been doing it for a long time. But
Why
if you
why does it look like they put Annabelle in an outhouse though?
she does look like she's pooping.
Just
She's in that.
pooping.
She's in that position. So that's cool because I didn't know how many people knew the actual story behind Annabelle and what was real versus what was Hollywood. But that is the story that is reported. So don't know. I don't know. I know I've always thought they were creepy. I actually sometimes think the real stories are just a smidge creepier than the movies.
Yeah.
The Annabelle
Just
movies.
the visual of a Raggedy Ann doll crawling across a bed,
Dude,
like
I
trying
had done
to kill
that.
somebody. That
why
is
you-
scarier than what they put in the movie.
Yeah,
It's
thanks for
because
putting that in my
it does
head,
look harmless. Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of it. Girl is
And then Raggedy Andy pops up too, and is like, ha
Andy's
ha.
running like
with
God,
like
team.
a bloody axe or something.
listen, Raggedy Annie Bell, you gotta stop
Yeah.
this. You're scaring the people.
Now, I know that there is an Annabelle Funko Pop, and it looks just as horrifying as it does in the movie. Is there a Raggedy Ann Funko Pop?
I don't know.
Because I really want to make a little Funko Pop diorama of Annabelle in the little tiny outhouse.
You should do
And
that.
just put it back there in the background. Just
I don't know.
have my own logo. Positively do not open.
That's cool. That's a
Which,
good
by the
idea.
way, let's point out the fact that it's open in both of those photos.
Warrens are
Positively
allowed to-
do not open.
That would be
They
cool,
were
but what
allowed
if
to open it, man? They were the Warrens.
Yeah,
but,
we're allowed to.
but what if the little Funko Pop gets possessed by the spirit?
You're getting
be
chased
amazing.
by a Funko
Yeah.
Pop. Can't really do much because it has no hands. It's just-
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be very top heavy.
Yeah, just the bobblehead.
You just
falls over.
it chases you and you just push it over.
Yeah.
It's like,
If that's
I
gonna
don't know.
happen,
There's
I've
one
got
just-
like a whole collection of really cool Funko over here that I would love to see come to life. They
keep
can
them in the
find it.
boxes, and it's harder for them to possess you.
I have all the Funko of Queen. What if I'm just sitting here one night and I hear
Freddie Mercury just stabs you.
That would be kind of awesome, actually.
You're like,
then all my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones come over and fight. Guys, we thank you guys for watching. As always, please go back and check out the other videos. We appreciate all your comments. We appreciate all your support so far. We hope you're enjoying the Spooky Scary Time stories and the clips that we put up. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Just remember, until next, we have the opportunity to tell you once again another creepy tale that might be true. I don't. They're reported as true. That's all I know.
who knows?
Until then, guys, remember,
Keep it creepy.
Be creepy.
This is kinda creepy. Goosebumps rising on my spine.